Nia, this is a real moment for you as somebody who watches this company very closely. Tough sales numbers earlier this month from the company. We see the new president pulling away the EV subsidies and the CEO of Tesla himself quite distracted by politics. These are choppy waters for any company. How is Tesla going to navigate them?
Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me today. This is a tricky company, and all investors are going to be watching for these earnings today. We want to see that there's a commitment to growth and that there's an ability for execution. And of course, we have questions. Can the CEO execute on these? And do we have a board that's going to support all of the growth that we need to see from this company?
What are you looking for in particular when it comes to the business, including self-driving and perhaps some of the other businesses that have emerged for Tesla, including AI and robotics?
Yeah, so that's a good question, right? Because as investors, we want to see growth and we want to see a plan and we want to see guidance. And what we know from these earnings reports from the past is consistently there will be surprises. So we can expect that. We want to see that there are sales growth in their main revenue source, which is automobiles, right? And yet Europe dropping in popularity. Actually, worldwide, Tesla has been dropping in popularity. And so we have competition coming up in the market, both with regular automobile makers as well as some of the Chinese that are coming in. And so it's a complicated terrain for Tesla right now to navigate. And so we're going to want to see that there's a CEO in control with a plan.
You are so important in terms of a voice because you're an activist investor. And ultimately, you're questioning often the role of Elon Musk, the way the policies he invokes, the way he acts. But notably, at the moment, Tesla doesn't seem to be particularly related to fundamentals. We point out that their shares have nearly doubled since the last time we got earnings. And the numbers haven't been that great since then, if you think about the deliveries numbers. Instead, this is a proxy on Elon's closeness to politics. How do you distinguish that for yourself as an investor?
So, Caroline, thanks for the question. This is a complicated company, particularly when the CEO is as involved with the federal government as he is. Oftentimes, you would see if there's a role granted from the federal government that you would drop your current day job, and yet we're not seeing that happening. So we do believe that every company deserves a full-time CEO, and so we have lots of questions there. We also have questions about human capital management and how is Tesla going to be able to attract, retain, promote top talent, because as we know, this is an innovation company, and innovation does derive itself from really loyal client base, both on the client side and then also on the employee base. And so we're looking to see how is the company going to manage this.
For years, though, since you first bought into Tesla, you've been trying to communicate with the company and pushing against some of the activities that we've seen, whether it be concerns around anti-DEI, whether it be certain perceived anti-Semitic comments coming from Elon Musk in the past that I know you've written about. There's also, though, of course, the latest when we come to the concerns around gestures recently made around the inauguration of Trump made by Elon Musk and indeed his support of AfD, which is deemed a right-wing group in Germany. Nothing seems to matter when you're putting this to ultimately a share price that goes up and to the right.
So you bring up some really interesting points. This company does seem to stand alone as far as its memeness and that it's continued to grow. Other companies would not get the same reactions with that type of CEO and those types of behaviors. We as investors are really looking for the long-term possibilities here. And when you have such a controversial CEO, we are seeing, as you point out, sales are dropping. Popularity is dropping. The brand has been damaged. And so how is the board and the rest of Tesla going to step in and see how are we going to see sales growing when we are having a lot of controversial issues? As I pointed out earlier, we're also seeing not only to clients that where I live in California, many are switching to Rivian and other EV brands specifically based on the brand and some of the issues that they see that they don't want to be associated with. And we're also seeing that for employees. Who's going to want to work for Tesla in such a volatile environment? These are questions that investors have.
Kristin, it's been a year since Tesla dropped diversity and inclusion language from its 10K, and we've seen since then other companies and even the federal government following suit in some fashion or another. Do you see this tide changing at all? And what sort of pressure will you be able to apply to Tesla at upcoming meetings?
Yeah, Yeah, so for all of our companies, we really want to see strong human capital management. And so whether you call it DEI or whether you call it supporting your employee base, we really want to see Tesla and other companies hold their employees on the asset side of the balance sheet as opposed to on the expense side. We want to see that Tesla is showing that they will invest in their employee base, because we know that, again, to execute on all of the innovation that they promise, they're going to need to have strong, loyal employees, and that's going to mean strong programs. And so, again, whether it's called diversity, equity, inclusion, whether it's merit-based hiring, we want to see that investment. And we need to see the transparency around that. So with Tesla, we at Nia have been asking them to remove forced arbitration from employee contracts, because that does conceal a lot of what's going on, both for managers and for investors, as well as for other employees.